friends. Welcome back to yet another exciting episode. I'm your host, Cranderq, a.k.a. my real name, the #1 beard in all of pro wrestling podcasting. Self-proclaimed, so no one can take it away from me. Oh, Canada, we have a great guest joining us. Chad Poutine is here in the house of Friends of Squared Circle. Not that it's a real house, it's a figurative house. We're not like Bray Wyatt. We don't have imaginary friends. Well, we do, but we don't. Anywho, I digress. Inside on Nutrition, Superior Creations, Darren Corbin are our sponsors. Give him a like on all social media platforms. Follow his Patreon that starts at $1. Follow ours. Help us make some money so I can get even more beard supplements. But we're not here to talk about my beard, or are we? I don't know. I'm excited. Welcome to the show, Mr. Poutine. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm good, man. I mean, we could talk about beards. Obviously, yours is much more luscious and better looking than mine, but I've had a beard pretty much most of my childhood and adulthood. So if we want to talk about beards, we can talk about beards.
Perfect. We might have to segue into that. I mean, I did not pay him to say that. Yes, I did. Checks in the mail. It might take 3 to 4 business days because it's in Canada, But I digress. Let's talk about that first earliest wrestling memory that you can recall as a wee one.
Yeah, my earliest wrestling memory has to be, as crazy as as it would sound to say, the thing that I remember is Hell in a Cell, Shawn Michaels, and The Undertaker.
That is a nice first memory.
Yeah, and it wasn't live. It was recorded. For anybody that's old enough to remember VHS tapes recorded, that's my definitive first memory of wrestling. I was not even 6, probably.
All right. Any being scared of the Undertaker, and then obviously Kane coming out later to bust out the door. Spoiler.
It's been almost 30 years at this point. I don't know if it's a spoiler. I think we've talked about literally anything and everything we can with wrestling at this point. No.
Exactly. And I've had a lot of energy drinks today, folks, so I am wired to the max. So I apologize a little bit, not a lot. But, yeah, I mean, were you traumatized by Undertaker or were you rooting for him? How did that start out there?
No.
6?
Actually, I was actually scared for Shawn is what I was. I don't ever really remember being terrified of The Undertaker as much as I was like, that poor little man is just getting thrown on this cage and he is bleeding everywhere. And I was just like, Dad, is this actually happening? And obviously I was a kid, so he's like, yeah, this is actually happening. But like,
the real
obviously
world,
until I got older, but like at the time I was just like, this is horrible. This little man is being tossed around by a 6'10" monster. I hope he's gonna be okay.
Now, was Dad into wrestling at all, or was it just something that he had to supervise you?
So I would say my dad was into wrestling as much as like when the pay-per-views would happen, my uncle would actually record them and he would give my dad a tape. My uncle was really into wrestling, but my dad really wasn't. And so we just used to have a collection of like recorded VHS tapes of all the pay-per-views. If the Canadian government wants to come get us, like,
I was just going to say, isn't there a warning before?
We never sold them. We didn't sell them for anything. But
you just fast forward that part. You don't have to record it, then you don't know.
Exactly.
That's so awesome. Yeah, my uncle used to do the same thing. He would record them and then give them to my other uncle and like grandpa and stuff. And he didn't even know I was into wrestling. I didn't even know they knew what wrestling was because I learned through Sega. Because I was like, oh, it's like Mortal Kombat. It's just made up characters. Well, next thing you know, I see it on TV. I'm like, oh my God, it's real.
Right?
It's real. And I was like, holy cow, like these aren't just toys and video games. Mind blowing. And then
mind blowing.
That opened the gate, But did your dad have any unique favorites, or was he just, you're all-American? You're Canadian, so I'm sure you're rooting for. Again, folks, energy drinks.
Watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. My dad would be very upset about that comment. There's nothing about my father that is American. Watch your mouth.
We are 5 minutes into this episode. I'm failing miserably. I'm calling people American. Sorry, your nationality is Canadian, not American. Was he a fan of the red, white, and blue, or the red and white? Just you take it away.
But no, my dad wasn't he wasn't really partial to wrestling either way. I
Okay.
think I grew up in what people would consider like the Attitude Era is like the golden age of wrestling, where like it was at the highest popularity it could have
Yep.
ever been until, I mean, some would argue right now.
Yep.
Um, and so like we just kind of watched it in passing.
Okay.
And once The Rock got really big, I just kind of got attached to it, and I
Okay.
really loved Dwayne Johnson and Stone Cold until they stopped, and obviously Dwayne left to make movies,
Hmm.
and Steve Austin retired. And then I was just kind of done with wrestling at that point. So I was like 10 or 11 when that happened. But my dad was never really like in it. He was just
Okay.
like, this is kind of cool. We'd watch every once in a while. I was glued to the television for about 2 years. That is true. Mondays and Fridays.
Hmm.
Well, once SmackDown started, but
Yeah.
I was glued to the television every Monday night. And that was a thing until I was like 11. And so it wasn't, my dad just kind of accidentally, and I saw some stuff. He was never really in it. He was
Okay.
actually in it after I was out of it, which is kind of weird.
Now, did him or your uncle ever take you to any live events when you were a kid, or was it strictly just on the TV there?
Yeah, I never, and back in the day, like obviously, growing up in Calgary, Alberta, like we had Stampede Wrestling,
Hmm.
but that had come and passed by the time I was a child, and so, and WWE very rarely came to Canada, like maybe 2 or 3 times a year maximum. My dad had gone and my uncle had gone, but they never
Oh.
took me. I'm assuming because of the adult themes that would occur at a live show is
Oh,
probably what
definitely. Yeah.
happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I never went to a live show until WrestleMania 38, which was the return of Cody Rhodes in Dallas, Texas. That was my
Oh.
first. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't lie. That was my second live show. My first live show was the SmackDown before WrestleMania at American Airlines Arena. But yeah, that was my first actual show, was WrestleMania 38 weekend, essentially. So
Very, very nice. Great
yeah.
return by Cody Rhodes. Everybody knew he was coming. I loved it.
I didn't even know who Cody Rhodes was. That's how much out of wrestling I had been. No idea. I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a famous family. I mean, he's not a Hart, so I understand why you don't know. And I know why Stone Cold was so pissed at you guys now.
Exactly.
Oh man, I am off the rockers. This episode is great. Now, as you're progressing, you mentioned The Rock and Stone Cold. Were there
Yeah.
any other wrestlers that kind of stood out? And then one of my favorite Rock moments is when he's asking everybody about Strudel. I got to throw that out there.
Always.
But especially him and Lillian Garcia, like that's some classic Rock stuff there.
It is.
But was there
100%.
any other wrestlers that kind of stood out in that peak era for you?
Yeah, I hated Kurt Angle.
Oh,
He was the
well, I mean,
worst.
he's an
So
Olympic gold medalist. I see why you hate him.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right?
And you didn't
Nobody
play
likes a
hockey,
winner.
Chad, so you can't be
Right?
that mad at him.
Nobody likes a winner, right? But the thing is growing up, like stereotypical experiences for a Canadian, like Americans were the
Yeah,
worst, right?
yeah,
And
okay.
so
So
I
your
couldn't
opinion
stand
doesn't
Kurt
matter. No,
Angle.
I'm kidding.
Right? I couldn't stand him. He was just the worst. And other than him, it was Steve and Rock. Like I just
Okay.
loved the entertainment value. I was never into the wrestling as much as I
Mhm.
was just the theatrics and the entertainment that
That's fair,
Dwayne
yeah.
and Steve Austin brought, right? Like
Mhm.
some of the most iconic entertainment segments that have existed were
Mhm.
those two guys, either with each other or just on television at different points in time. And
Yep.
so they were my guys. And as long as they were on TV, I was watching that. And so that was a big thing. And then obviously I grew up in Monday Night Wars, so like,
Mhm.
regardless of if anybody wants to hear, but like WCW, Goldberg was my guy. Like literally the 7 minutes that he was a fire breathing dragon when I was 7 years old. I've never done drugs before, but I imagine being on drugs is like watching Goldberg wrestle for 7 minutes. I was 7 years old and I was just like,
I mean, I can't make fun of little
and then I was so wired
7-year-old
I couldn't go
Chad
back
and
to sleep.
Goldberg. Yep.
And then
Yep.
I had school the next day. So
Yep.
those are the four main guys that really stood out to me
Okay.
when I grew up. So
Very nice. Now, as
yeah.
you're getting older, I know you already mentioned that you kind of had that solid 2 years. When did you rediscover pro wrestling then? When did you kind of dabble back into that pool of wrestling?
Yeah, so it was just before COVID. It was a
Okay.
month before COVID. John Cena's retirement, and that was when he did the Firefly Funhouse thing with Bray Wyatt that year at WrestleMania, when they were in Tampa Bay. And I remember they've done other retirement segments.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't watched wrestling in legitimately almost 20 years, right? I was a professional hockey player, so like I played hockey my entire life and I just forgot about wrestling. And it literally was just an advertisement on TV. And I was just like, huh, John Cena's retirement. This should be interesting. And hot take, I hated John Cena and I still hate John Cena. Everything about him was so phony and I couldn't put up with it. And so I never liked it. And I was just like, this will probably be half decent. I hadn't watched wrestling in 20 years, and I didn't have much to do that night. So I just tuned back in, and I was like, huh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And then so I watched SmackDown, and then I just like accidentally, like, I would say, during that time, during COVID, like, they were rolling. Like, there was a lot of really good stuff before COVID, and it just kind of sucked me back in. And I legitimately, up until 6 months ago, every single episode, every single PLE,
Nice.
just almost 6 years straight of just consuming the entire thing. And so that's how it sucked me back in. John Cena, out of all people, sucked me back in.
Another good American boy sucked him into pro wrestling. Just so you all
Right?
know, please. A good
Correct.
American boy.
So we can let everybody think.
Who were some of the guys that you really enjoyed watching in that 6 year period? A lot of people, pre-COVID, like that 2000, like 13 to 16, I think is like the period that everybody absolutely hated. But I was like, I loved it. I mean, I don't get so wrapped up in like critiquing everything.
Yeah.
There are some storylines like, well, they could go this route with it, but
Sure.
I don't write for them. Fine. Right. You took the title away from Daniel Bryan. Now I'm pissed.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to me. And then my buddy Bob has to remind me, just remember the story is going to develop. Yeah, whatever. I'm mad, Bob, but yeah, that one. And like when they threw Rey Mysterio like a lawn dart, Sweet Sapphire being stolen from $1 Million Man, like those things felt real to me. Like I was legitimately pissed off after all of them. But I mean, like, who are the guys that you gravitated towards?
Yeah, I mean, the Rey Mysterio I lost thing was bizarre. That broke the internet for a second.
Yeah.
And so that was, and I'd seen Rey Mysterio when I was a kid, and obviously him and Eddie Guerrero had just a million bangers back in the day. But I always loved Rey, so like that was entertaining because they were doing the whole Dom thing and their whole family, and then Dom goes, sour and the whole, deadbeat dad thing. I honestly like Dom was so cheesy, but like I enjoyed it and I actually thought it was funny.
It worked. Yep.
Obviously that, and then the Brock Lesnar Drew McIntyre thing was really good because obviously that was all happening at that time. And then the thing that was really hard for me was it was funny that I didn't know who Cody Rhodes was, and then fast forward 2 years later, he becomes my first ever wrestling coach. I just ended up being a big fan of Cody Rhodes, like because he's such a genuinely nice human being. And I had so many great interactions with him in class, and so I just like I didn't know him before, but I was like, oh, like they're definitely not going to let me into that school, and then they did, and then I met Cody, and I spent 3 months with him, and so then after that, I was a pretty big Cody Rhodes fan for multiple reasons. And it's a good, heartfelt story anyways. I would say those guys that kind of hitched my caboose too. Obviously, I was really excited when Edge came back. I never thought that was going to be a thing because I wasn't a wrestling fan when Edge returned, right? I missed that at the Royal Rumble. So I didn't even know he'd come back. So when he was there, I mean, him and Randy Orton's thing, that was great television, phenomenal television.
And imagine what they could have did outside of COVID. I mean,
right?
Especially with that rated RKO tag team, being so ruthless, and then if they would have had more opportunities, I think, as being seasoned veterans, man, like,
right,
Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
No, you're good. No, absolutely.
I know
You're totally
Canadians
right,
are
and that's
wrong
where my
believing
kind
us
of head went as
Americans
well.
are just
Right? It's
trash.
like,
We just
what could we, what could we have done had it not been COVID? Right?
yep. Yep.
But that was such a good part of TV for me that it
Mhm.
like kind of carried through because like COVID was a very challenging time for everybody, and
Yes.
that wrestling TV was so good, and it was
Mhm.
still like yes, there are no fans there, but it was still like very entertaining and obviously a lot of those things were even there were parts of the show that I would argue were like more violent and more testy than they had been before because like we're trying to make people pay attention.
Yep.
So that's kind of why I hung around, and then obviously like I just kept watching and kept watching, and like I said, I just didn't stop watching for like 6 years, and obviously wrestling gets in the way now that I do it, just like they do it, and so just not on national television. So
Not yet, anyways. Not
but
yet.
and like I said, I haven't watched every episode over the last 6 months, but yeah, I would say Ray, and Orton and Edge, and the Drew McIntyre thing was a special story, like just based on his story and the redemption and things. So, and
Yep.
obviously, I remember Brock Lesnar from back in the day, right? And so,
Yep.
those are kind of the guys that I enjoyed seeing at that moment in time during that. So,
And talk about a glow up for Drew McIntyre from a
right,
guy that literally looked like he needed to eat a sandwich to the guy that like looks like he could, be a well, he was probably on Muscle and Fitness. I mean, holy cow.
right,
I remember when he came to the local arena here and he was the Intercontinental Champion. And
yeah,
I was like, man, I'm bigger than you, but you may be taller, but I mean, I feel like you need to
right.
eat something,
He
brother. Are they
used to be a
feeding you back
beanpole,
there?
and it's a hockey reference, and anybody that's a hockey person that follows a podcast called Spit and Chip, it says a guy, rest in peace. His name was Johnny Gaudreau, but his nickname was Johnny Ham and Cheese,
Okay.
because he's really small, very skinny, and his buddies he loved ham and cheese sandwiches,
Mhm.
and I actually like made fun of Drew that way because I was like, oh Drew, you need a ham and cheese, brother, like
Yep.
come on. The Drewy ham and cheese because he's super tall but he's super skinny. Needs to
Mhm.
get some meat on his bones. So for a while there, all those pictures I used to say, I used to call him Drewy ham and cheese. And so that's just some fun stuff that I did by myself that I never really told anybody. So
Well, I know a guy that talks to him on the regular. We'll have to get you guys on the podcast. Maybe you'll call him and be like, hey, Drew, I got a story for you.
I got a story for you. Hey, this guy calls you Drewy ham and cheese.
So, now, like you mentioned that you're playing pro hockey.
Yeah.
How did that? Was there any influences with wrestling that kind of transpired in that? Because we all know hockey players are the real badasses out there. Like I love football more than I like hockey, but hockey players are a different breed. Did you use anything from wrestling, like for trash talking or fighting or finesse and getting the crowd hype? Is there any correlation between the two that you might have used in your playing career?
Yeah, I mean the trash talk for sure, right? You definitely want to get inside of guys' heads, and obviously I did it for 20 years, and so there is some absolutely ruthless things that I will not repeat on this podcast that I have said to other grown men, that that had done me well, and I kind of converted them, and so
Nice.
having the gift of gab has kind of made it easy transitional wise. The fighting part of it. If guys want to test me, they get a punch in the mouth, and they're not used to getting a punch in the mouth like that. So the violence part of it definitely helps. And then I would say the third thing about it is just like being in shape, right? Like playing hockey at the highest level. You're a marathon runner, you're a football player,
Yep.
and you're a soccer player, kind of all in one. And you got to have the cardio for it, but you also have the strength for it. And then you have to have the finesse for it, right? And so being able to kind of just convert the athleticism really helped because I can just do all of the wrestling things.
Oh, definitely.
Um,
Yeah.
those were the three things that really kind of, which I never really would have thought of, honestly, like, because I never saw myself being, a professional wrestler at all. And so the fact that I did all that and then I was like, oh, I can actually convert it, it made the transition a lot easier than I think it could have been.
Yeah, definitely. If you're just coming out of the gate, like you said, being a hockey player has all of those different elements into
Yeah.
one. And I don't think people realize that. They just think you're out there skating. But I mean, I know, like, all my friends growing up played it. My brother played it.
Yeah.
I sometimes struggle with the rules. I love playing the video games, but like,
Mhm.
I love it, but I don't watch it enough because the access to it, because Wisconsin doesn't have a team.
Yeah.
We just get Minnesota's team, but
Right. Yeah.
they're kind of okay. But
Yeah. They're not bad.
it's like I said, I remember they're a different breed of athlete, because I remember there was a post like a long time ago that
Yeah.
a pro football player was out because he had a sprained thumb.
Yeah.
And then they posted a clip or the meme of the hockey player had a fractured eye socket,
Yes.
was missing 3 teeth, and he was suiting up the next night. I'm like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. Yep.
Yeah. That's the story of my life. Like,
Yep.
the amount of injuries that I've had. And I know the broken eye socket. I broke my orbital bone.
Okay.
And I played the next day. Literally, I went to the doctor's office and they sutured me. And then I played the next night. And I could barely see out of my left eye. So I've played with broken wrists. I blew my ankle out and played with that. The craziest injury that I've actually had, which came to fruition not that long ago, is that I found out that I tore my ACL completely. And the doctor had told me that it had been at least 10 years since I had torn it, based on the scar tissue and everything that was in my leg. And he was like, I cannot believe that you were a professional athlete, hockey player, and then after that you were a professional wrestler, and it took us this long to figure out you didn't have an ACL at all. He goes, hockey players really are built different. It's kind of a badge of honor, because like we could kind of pretty much do just about anything. And I've done a lot apparently with no ACL that I didn't know about. And so, it doesn't matter. I always joke all the time, like, the softest hockey player is tougher than any other athlete that ever exists.
I will not
The
dispute
toughness
that.
scale is just kind of not the same, but it's also the attitude and how the sport is kind of developed, which, like, hockey isn't about being a superstar. It's about being part of a team. And this is a hot take, and I don't care what anybody else has to say about it. Baseball, football, basketball, it's about the superstars and what they do and how they are. And it's all about, like, pampering them. Whereas, like, the greatest hockey players in the world, they would literally skate through a wall. And they'd get hurt and then get back up and keep playing, because that's just kind of how hockey players are, and that's how we all are. And so,
sorry.
No, you're good. No, I'm done. You're good.
I mean, my face is on the logo. No, I'm just kidding. But
I mean, it is.
They play 50-some games a year. Okay, to the 17. Like I said, I love football. Like, that's my number one. But like, you're playing 50 games a year. You have this circular disc that goes 100 miles an hour and can literally just take you out in a second. There's a sharp ass knife on the bottom of your foot, and we've seen it where multiple people have been cut, in various places, as well as, like you said, playing through the injuries. And one thing that, you could correct me if I'm wrong here, because I don't know too much about the pro hockey stuff, is that you don't see guys jumping team to team because they're upset with their coach, or they're not, oh, well, I'm going to go play in Miami because I want to win a championship. It's like, okay, well, my deal's done, then I'll go. Like, you don't see a lot of that in pro hockey, and I think that's very respectful, is that, again, the team aspect, you're thinking, like, how can us 5 guys win? Let's shuffle that. And I'm not throwing Kevin Durant down, the hill or whatever you want to call it.
Let's throw him down the hill. It is what it is. We can throw LeBron James down the hill, right? Like, there are guys that have done this, and it is what it is, right? You can either be the most important person in the room, or you can win championships, right? And that is why we have a conversation about a guy like Michael Jordan and LeBron James. There's a reason why there's a difference, right? There's a reason why we talk about guys like Wayne Gretzky in the way that we do, is because, sorry, LeBron, you've got an attitude about you, and you talk about you, and guys like Michael Jordan and Wayne Gretzky, they talk about we. They talk about us. If it wasn't for that guy, I wouldn't have been where I was, even though they are the greatest of all time. Michael Jordan, perfect example. What does he always say? If it wasn't for Scotty, I never won without Scotty.
Mm-hmm.
He won 6 championships. He won them all with Scottie Pippen.
Yep.
He never said, I'm the greatest. I won 6 championships. And then Wayne Gretzky, what is he talking about? All of his teammates. I played with Mark Messier. I played with Yari Curry. I played with Grant Fuhr. All these Hall of Fame players that are incredible hockey players. He talks about them, and Wayne Gretzky dwarfs all of them. But he never talks about them, right? I just think it's a culture thing, and it's not good or bad. I just think it is what it is.
Yep.
Right? Like, if that's how you're brought up and that's how you're raised and that's what you're supposed to see, then that's what you see.
Yep.
Right? And, you know, by the way, the only thing I'm going to correct you on, it's 82 games. Well, this year it's actually 84, but it's 82, not 50. But other than that, everything else is pretty spot on.
With the Canadian currency and the U.S. currency, that's where I get my numbers.
Oh, yeah. I'll give you a break on that one. It's okay.
But yeah, it's just like you're on this team. You won championships. You're not happy. Now you're going here because you want to chase more. And it's just like, fulfill the contract. You don't need to be traded every 2 years, you know. And there's a lot of football players like that do that piss me off. That's why I kind of fell out of it for a year. And I think I kind of settled on pro wrestling being my top thing. Is like I'll buy a jersey of, say, you know, my favorite player for the Ravens. And then 2-3 years, they're on another team. It's just like, well, I just spent $70 on a jersey that I can wear for 3 years. Then I got to cart around this. And they're like, why do you got an outdated jersey? You know what I mean? Now some teams will take them back or, you know, switch the names on the back, which is cool. You know, and then now you can just get personalized with your name. But then people think you're a real Mark, you know. But it's just like, you know, it's like, damn, like, you know, and it you know, I used to have 30-some jerseys. Now I just get, you know, legends or people that played on the team back in the day because it's like, well, then I know they're not going to go somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Because with current players, you never know what's going to happen, right? Even the franchise players, you don't know what's going to happen, right?
And we all know that, you know, the greatest basketball player of all time is Charles Barkley. No, I'm just saying that. I don't know who the greatest basketball player is.
I bet you Charles would tell you that.
I love him and
Charles Barkley would tell you that.
All the
and
time,
listen, Michael Jordan is a class act enough that he might also say that.
Yeah, I just had to throw it out there because I know someone's, you know, how they get LeBron, Michael. Like, I'm just going to throw out the first name I can think of. And I just love Charles Barkley because I feel like you could relate to this. I'm not your kid's superhero. You know what I mean? Like
Charles is great. I don't know if anybody's ever watched Charles on TNT for NBA. But
yeah,
obviously
I love
the
him and
studios
Shaq going back and forth. Like that is my highlight. Like I just love those
and
two.
he comes on the TNT NHL set too, and some of the things he does just absolutely hilarious. Love the guy. He seems like an absolute riot, and I appreciate some of the things he says about hockey because it's hilarious. Him and Shaq are some of the funniest guys when they get on NHL and TNT. It's hilarious. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but if you haven't, you should go check it out because it's hilarious television.
Perfect. And I know we're trying to keep this to a half hour. We got to dive into some more, you know, with you here. Where can people find you? What's coming next? And then I have a hard-hitting question for you. We'll get you going, and then we'll definitely have to do a part 2 of this because I feel like we got some synergy here. You know, the all-American boy and the real Canadian here. But go ahead.
Totally.
Where can people find you? What's coming up next? And then I'll hit you with that hard-hitting question.
No, I mean, it's The Real Poutine. Any social media you can find: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. I'm on all of them. What's next for me? Currently, I am in Houston, Texas, and I am a part of Reality of Wrestling. I have been for about the last year and a half.
Nice. Booker T, right?
What's that?
Booker T runs that one, right?
Yeah, Booker T. Yep. And I've had a down wing since October of last year, and so I've had an injury that has kind of plagued me since then. So I haven't. Everybody's like wondering where Chad is. That's why Chad kind of disappeared a little bit, just because I've been injured. But the thing that's what's next for me is just kind of getting in the rehab, making sure that I'm where I need to be, and then I'll be back on Reality of Wrestling, and then I'll be back up north as well. There's lots of people.
Let's get you back at MAW and have some shenanigans.
Well, MAW is one of the people that definitely been chomping at the bit. They keep asking me like, "Hey man, you ready to go? Hey man, you ready to go?" And I'm just like, "Nope, not yet. Nope, not yet." But I know they want me, so I'll definitely be coming back up there. And so that's kind of the moving direction. That's going to be probably till the end of the towards the end of the year. So
sounds good. All righty. And now the hard-hitting question. I guess there's two of them now. If I've always asked this question because I think it's the stupidest question ever. Why is our ham considered your bacon? Now I'm going to let you stew on that one. And then who are your top 3 Canadian influences in all of sports? It could be just, the bagger at your local store, if you call them stores. Do you call them bags? Do you call them bubblers? Do you call them phones? I don't know. But the top 3 influential Canadians in your book. But again, why is our ham called your bacon? Go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, it's a bag, not a bag. It's a bag that you put stuff in. You don't beg for it. Just want to clarify that.
That's fine. I'll say
And
bacon.
2, why is your ham our bacon? Is because you guys do not understand that Canadian bacon is just ham. Canada got it, and it makes sense. And then you guys just want to overcomplicate it and go, no, that's Canadian bacon. No, that's just ham. I don't go to the pizza parlor and go, hey, I want Canadian bacon and pineapple. I go, hey, ham and pineapple, please and thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Right? However, that's a sure tell sign that if, as an American, you go to a Canadian pizza restaurant and ask for Canadian bacon, they'll go, "You're American, aren't you?"
I love it. I gotta clip that. Yep.
Yeah, you gotta quit that. Just stop. Because it's just ham. And then the third thing, I would say, when I was in high school, I was really fortunate. I got to meet Sidney Crosby. And I would argue, no offense to Wayne, points wise, I would argue the greatest hockey player of all time. Wayne Gretzky is the greatest point hockey player of all time and played in an era where nobody touched him.
Yep.
I just firmly believe that Sidney Crosby is the greatest all-around hockey player that's ever existed. And class act when I met him. I was fortunate enough when I was 18. We won the gold medal in 2010 for hockey, and we beat, shocker, the Americans. And I was in hey, you guys got the last one on us. So, but in 2010, I was fortunate enough to meet him. And he's just a class act, everything that he's ever done, how he's done it. Just kind of always looked up to him from the time I was younger. And he wasn't even really that much older than me. He's only, 5-6 years older than me, but still, just an absolute class act. And then another hockey name most people might not know in America, his name is Joe Sakic. He was the captain of the Colorado Avalanche for his entire career. Just unbelievable wrist shot and such a class act of a human being. Also got fortunate enough when I was a kid, I got to meet him. So he was a huge influence. And then I would say my biggest influence in general, as a Canadian, is my dad. My dad, greatest father that I could have ever asked for. My dad has done so much for me, given me so much, done so much for me, has shown me the way. My dad was also a professional hockey player, so he's the guy that showed me the way to the promised land. And he's always just been so supportive of everything that I've done. He's my best friend. He's a class act. Everything that I am, I got from my dad. And so I would say those are probably the 3 most influential Canadians that I've had in my life.
Perfect. Great answer. Chad, I can't thank you enough for coming on. We got to get you back on. I love the energy between us, and then must be the energy drinks too. But I know when we met at MAW, it was the same banter. I appreciate you coming on. And folks, if you want to be just like Chad, well, if you don't want to be Canadian, if you want to be like Chad and be on a future episode of Friends of the Squared Circle, hit us up on Facebook and all of our socials. We'll get you on a future episode. It's your boy, Cranderq. Cranderq out. And I always got to struggle with the ending.